The notification chimed on my phone at 11:47 p.m. Marcus has arrived in a silver Toyota Camry. I grabbed my purse and headed downstairs, eager to get home after another exhausting day at the marketing firm. The car idled outside my office building, hazard lights blinking in the empty downtown street. I slid into the back seat, noting the pine air freshener and the soft jazz playing from the speakers. "Sarah?" the driver asked, glancing at me through the rearview mirror. His eyes were pale blue, almost colorless in the dim streetlight. "That's me," I confirmed, settling back as we pulled away from the curb. "Long day at work?" His voice was smooth, conversational. I noticed his hands on the steering wheel. Thin fingers, well-manicured nails. "Yeah, you know how it is. I was tired. Not really in the mood for small talk, but he seemed nice enough. The ride to my apartment usually took 15 minutes. "I do know how it is," he said, making eye contact again in the mirror. "I work nights mostly, see a lot of people like you, hard-working, dedicated. You come out of that building a lot." Something about the way he said it made me look up from my phone. "You've seen me before?" "Oh, sure. I drive this area regularly. You work late often?" He turned left onto 5th Street, the route I knew well. "Must be important work keeping you there past 11 on a Tuesday." I forced a polite smile and looked back at my phone, but the conversation had shifted something in the car's atmosphere. The jazz suddenly felt too intimate, too personal for a stranger's car. When we pulled up to my building, Marcus turned around completely. "Have a good night, Sarah. Stay safe out there." "Thanks," I mumbled, practically leaping from the car. As I walked to my building's entrance, I heard his window roll down. "Sarah?" I turned reluctantly. "You dropped this?" He held up my work badge, the one I'd been certain was clipped to my purse strap. I walked back to get it, and when our fingers brushed during the exchange, his skin was ice cold. "Thanks," I said again, hurrying toward my building without looking back. The second time I got Marcus as a driver was 3 days later. I almost cancelled when I saw his name, but I was running late for a date and couldn't wait for another ride. This time he was waiting outside the coffee shop where I'd grabbed lunch earlier that day. "Funny coincidence," I said as I got in, trying to keep things light. "Not really," he replied, pulling away from the curb. "I've been hoping I'd get you again." The directness of his statement sent a chill down my spine. "Oh, you seem like someone I'd like to know better." His eyes found mine in the mirror again, and this time he held the gaze longer than was comfortable. "Tell me about yourself, Sarah. What do you do for fun?" "I really just want to get to my destination, if that's okay." "Of course." But instead of turning right toward downtown where I was meeting Jake, Marcus continued straight, just taking a slightly different route. "Traffic's heavy on the main roads tonight." I checked my phone's GPS. "We were heading in the completely wrong direction. Actually, I think there might be a mistake." "Trust me," he interrupted. "I know these streets better than any app." My heart began racing. I looked at the door locks. They were engaged. The child safety locks were on. I couldn't get out. "Let me out," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Marcus glanced back at me, and for the first time I saw something unsettling in his expression. Not anger, but something worse, a kind of patient satisfaction. "We're almost there." He was right in a way. 5 minutes later, we pulled up outside the restaurant where I was meeting Jake. But those 5 minutes had felt like an hour, and I couldn't shake the feeling that he'd taken me on some kind of test drive, seeing how I'd react to being trapped. I fumbled with my phone to give him a low rating, but his profile had no reviews. The account looked brand new. By the 4th ride with Marcus, which happened just 2 days later, despite my requesting different drivers, I was beginning to understand that these weren't coincidences. Each time I opened the app, within minutes, Marcus would appear as my assigned driver. When I tried to cancel, the cancellation fee was always surge priced at $15 or $20. This time he was parked outside my grocery store. I hadn't even requested a ride yet. "Going home?" he asked as I approached the car, bags in hand. "I didn't call for a ride, I know, but you will." He gestured to my heavy bags, my tired expression. "I thought I'd save you the trouble." Against every instinct I got in. Something about his confidence, his certainty, made resistance feel futile. "You know," he said as we drove, "I've been thinking about our conversations. You work so hard, Sarah. You deserve someone who appreciates that about you." "I have a boyfriend," I lied. "Jake?" Marcus asked, and my blood turned to ice. "From your date the other night. Didn't seem like it went very well. You came out of that restaurant after only an hour." I stared at him in the rearview mirror. How do you... I waited for you, he said simply. Wanted to make sure you got home safe. That's the kind of person I am, Sarah. I pay attention. I care. When we reached my apartment, I bolted from the car without saying goodbye. Upstairs, I immediately deleted the Uber app and downloaded Lyft instead. The flowers arrived the next morning, 24 white roses with a card that read, "For someone who deserves to be noticed. M." I called the flower shop, but they said the order had been placed by phone and paid for in cash. No record of a last name or return address. That evening, I took a Lyft to meet friends for dinner. The driver was a college kid named Brian who talked about his classes and played top 40 music. Normal, safe. But when I came out of the restaurant, Marcus was parked across the street, just sitting in his silver Camry, watching. Our eyes met through the windshield, and he raised his hand in a small wave. I turned and walked quickly back into the restaurant, my heart hammering. When I looked again 10 minutes later, he was gone. This continued for weeks. No matter which service I used, no matter what route I took, Marcus was always somewhere in my peripheral vision, parked outside my office building, 3 cars behind me in the grocery store parking lot, sitting at a corner table when I met friends for drinks, always alone, always watching. I started taking buses, walking when possible, staying late at work to avoid my usual routines. But Marcus adapted to my schedule changes faster than I could make them. The breaking point came on a rainy Thursday night in November. I'd worked until almost midnight, hoping the late hour would mean fewer drivers on the road, less chance of encountering him. I called a taxi, old school, from a company that still dispatched over the phone. The cab that arrived was a yellow Crown Victoria, driven by an elderly man named Frank. I almost cried with relief. "Where to, miss?" I gave him my address and settled back into the cracked vinyl seats. No smooth jazz, no personal questions, no lingering stares in the rearview mirror. Just a professional driver doing his job. We were 3 blocks from my apartment when Frank pulled over. "What's wrong?" I asked. "Engine light," he said, but I could see the dashboard from where I sat. No warning lights were illuminated. Frank turned around and his face had changed. The kindly expression was gone, replaced by something cold and calculating. "Hello, Sarah." It wasn't Frank's voice anymore, it was Marcus. I grabbed for the door handle, but the locks were already engaged. In the rearview mirror, I could see him removing what I now realized had been a mask. The face of an elderly cab driver, complete with grey moustache and weathered skin. "You've been making this very difficult," Marcus said, his real face revealed. He was younger than I'd thought, maybe early 30s, with sharp cheekbones and those pale, colourless eyes. "All this running around, trying different services. Do you have any idea how much effort it's taken to keep track of you? What do you want?" My voice came out as barely a whisper. "I want us to get to know each other properly," he said. "Without all these games, these pretenses. I want you to understand how much I care about you, Sarah. How much attention I've been paying." He started driving again, but not toward my apartment. We were heading toward the industrial district, where the streets were darker and emptier. "I know your schedule better than you do," he continued conversationally. "I know you get a large coffee with oat milk every Tuesday and Thursday from the Starbucks on 3rd Street. I know you bite your nails when you're nervous. You're doing it right now. I know you have a scar on your left knee from falling off your bike when you were 7 years old, because I've seen you in shorts at the farmer's market on Saturday mornings." Each detail felt like a violation, proof of how long he'd been watching, how much of my life he'd catalogued without my knowledge. "I know you live alone," he said, and this time there was something different in his voice, something hungry. "I know your neighbors work early shifts and go to bed by 10. I know your apartment is on the 3rd floor, corner unit, and your bedroom window faces the alley." The car turned down a narrow street I didn't recognize. Abandoned warehouses loomed on either side, their windows dark and broken. "I know you're scared of me," Marcus said, "but fear is just a form of attention, isn't it? It means you think about me, that I occupy space in your mind. That's all I've ever wanted, Sarah, to matter to someone." He parked the car in the shadow of a large building and turned off the engine. The silence was deafening. "The thing is," he said, turning around to face me fully, "I've been patient, I've been subtle, I've tried to let this develop naturally, but you keep pulling away from me, and I don't think you understand how much that hurts." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small digital camera. The display showed dozens of photos, me walking to work, me grocery shopping, me sleeping in my bed, photographed through my window. "I've been documenting our relationship," he said, "so you can see how long this has been building, how much effort I've put into us." He scrolled through the images and I saw my own life reduced to a series of surveillance photos, months of them. Pictures taken from impossible angles, from places I'd never noticed him hiding. "Please," I whispered, "just let me go." Marcus tilted his head, considering. "I don't think you mean that. I think you're just afraid of commitment. But don't worry, Sarah. I'm patient. I can wait until you're ready to appreciate what we have." He started the car again. "I'm going to take you home now. And I want you to think about tonight, about everything I've shown you. I want you to understand that running from me is pointless. I will always find you. I will always be watching." The drive back to my apartment passed in surreal silence. Marcus hummed along to the radio as if we'd just shared a pleasant evening out. When we pulled up to my building, he turned around one last time. "Sweet dreams, Sarah," he said. "I'll be seeing you soon." I moved out the next day, packed everything I could fit in my car and drove 6 hours north to stay with my sister in Portland. I changed my phone number, deleted all my social media accounts, requested a transfer to my company's branch office. For 2 months, I thought I'd escaped. Then, on a rainy Tuesday evening, I stepped out of my new office building and saw a familiar silver Toyota Camry parked across the street. The driver's window rolled down and Marcus waved at me with those thin, pale fingers. He'd found me again. As I watched in frozen horror, he held up his phone and showed me a photo on the screen, a picture of my sister's house taken from the street, then another photo, my sister walking to her mailbox, unaware she was being watched. The message was clear: running would only put others in danger. That night, I called the police, but what could I tell them? That my Uber driver had been too friendly, that I'd seen him parked on public streets. The photos he'd shown me were taken from public property. He'd never technically threatened me, never touched me, never broken any laws I could prove. "Has he made any explicit threats?" the officer asked. "Not exactly, but has he been on your property without permission?" "I don't think so, but, Mum, unless he's actually committed a crime or made a direct threat, there's not much we can do. You might consider a restraining order, but you'd need more evidence of harassment." Evidence. 3 months of systematic stalking, and I had no evidence except my own growing terror and a handful of rides in rideshare apps. The next morning I found a note slipped under my sister's front door. "Distance means nothing to someone who truly cares. Looking forward to our next ride together. M." I realized then that Marcus wasn't just a stalker, he was something much worse, a predator with infinite patience, sophisticated methods, and the ability to blend invisibly into the infrastructure of modern life. Every app I used, every service I relied on, every system designed to keep me safe had become a tool he could exploit. And the most terrifying part, I was beginning to understand that this would never end. Marcus didn't want to hurt me quickly. He wanted to own me slowly, to erode my sense of safety and autonomy until I had nowhere left to run. No choice but to accept whatever relationship he'd constructed in his mind. As I write this, it's been 3 months since that night in the warehouse. I'm still in Portland, still looking over my shoulder, still jumping every time I see a silver sedan. I take buses now, or walk, or ask my sister to drive me places. But I know it's only a matter of time, because somewhere out there Marcus is waiting, watching, planning our next encounter. And the worst part is, I'm starting to believe he's right about one thing. No matter how far I run, how careful I am, how much I change my life to avoid him, he will always find me. The notification just chimed on my phone. A new message from an unknown number. "Miss me yet? Your regular driver is back in town. 5 stars as always."